Act 2, Cowboy Carter, like many of Beyonce's works, is a quintessential collection of Beyonce bops. We got genre bending, we got vocals to the gods, we got her Bonnie and Clyde fantasies, and the ever-present reminder that she and her man really be f***ing. However, despite those themes of familiarity, who is this? Not in terms of her taking a go at a new genre. I support that, I endorse that, okay? But the way she's gone about it is spooky. The Beyonce we're used to seeing can be found communicating her Black pride through symbolic lyrics, cultural attire, and the recurring display of a Black power fist. Now that's a stark difference from the Beyonce we're seeing now, who, aside from that very questionable album cover, is requesting that we don't even bring up her race when discussing her shift into this genre that she was shut out of because of her race. Spooky. Nevertheless, Beyonce still opened this album with a song titled American Requiem. In it, she seemingly abandons this colorblind request and foreshadows this album representing a reform of outdated, racist misunderstandings, not just in the country music genre, but as the title suggests, in Americanism as a whole. But despite some pretty awkwardly placed Black trauma references in dance tracks, I was hard-pressed to find the Americanism that she was meant to challenge. The Americanism that she's being praised for revolutionizing. Let me be clear, I am not super disapproving of the album itself. I think the album sounds good. You know what? I think the album sounds great. I am not well versed enough in the country music genre to be like, this is what she should have said, and this is what it should have sounded like, and these are the elements she should have incorporated. My only concern is in the rollout, because it's telling. So clearly, this project presented a very unique challenge for Beyonce, as she has two opposing forces to tend to. So on one side, she has the institution of a predominantly white, conservative music genre that she has clearly longed to step into. And despite how big Beyonce's name and likeness is, she still needs to appease this institution to ensure the success of this album's legacy. And on the other side, there's her fan base of predominantly marginalized people who have come to expect radical symbolism from just about all of her work, because that's the tone she set. But more importantly, whose attention and dollars she can actually rely on. I mean, oh God, we are so loyal to her that the cultural norm of the fan base is to willingly go broke behind her, even amidst an economic crisis. And Beyonce is certainly feeling the doom of this economic crisis as well, as told by her rapid commercialization, promoting us a tour, a film of the tour, a perfume, a hair care line, a Verizon commercial, 2 singles, and a 27-track album. And this has all been within the past year. Who is this? It seems as though Beyonce, like many wealthy folks right now, is trying to hoard capital. And the form of capital that she is placing the biggest investment in is human capital. It's us. And I'm here because there has always been so much discussion about Beyonce's fans and their obsession with her and their extreme, undying loyalty to her. You know, there's always this extremist language used when discussing Beyonce's fans and how they react to her, but we don't talk nearly as much about Beyonce's outreach to us. The strategy, the intention, the posturing, and as told by this extreme switch up of imagery.
The lies! There you go, this bitch.
The lies. I am really uncomfortable right now. I don't know if it's these genocidal days or these back-to-back celebrity exposés or what is compelling me to see things in a truer, more practical light, even if that means a more uncomfortable light. But today we gonna clock it. Today we gonna clock it. But first, hello, welcome to this video. My name is T, if you're new here. So welcome to my new studio. I have obviously been gone for a good little while now. You know what? I actually think this is the longest I've ever spent away from YouTube. It's been like half a year. Anyway, I have been away for a couple of months, and this is the main thing that has had me peeled over and stressed out and in need of orgasms around the clock, truly. Over these past couple of months, I have been devoted to switching up the visual vibe of things, but also trying to shift the direction that I want to take my channel in and just my career overall. So this is one of many changes that I've been working on, some of them subtle, some a little bit more in your face, and I am so excited to share them all with you in due time. Now let's get back to today's show, because I know you can't wait to see how I pulled this one off.
Beyoncé hot off her chart-topping Cowboy Carter release.
Last night, Beyoncé was honored at the iHeartRadio Music Awards with the Innovator Award presented by...
And it's time for a review of this new Beyoncé album, Cowboy Carter.
All right, we talked about what we needed to talk about. Now let's talk about what we want to talk about.
The one and only Beyoncé.
Well, we gotta talk about Beyoncé.
Beyoncé, highly anticipated country album.
Cowboy Carter. Cowboy Carter, now officially out.
I once read a comment like, in these conversations, why is Beyoncé always getting all the heat? She's definitely not the only capitalist. She's certainly not the only celebrity capitalist. So why are we constantly singling her out when people like Oprah and Rihanna and her husband are literally right there? And that's a fair question, but the answer is pretty simple. In the pursuit of wealth and power, which all of these people are on, Beyoncé faces a different challenge. And by that I mean her public facing image is what brings in the most cash flow. And this is just a public record, okay? I don't know what kind of business deal she got that fly under the radar, but to date, the job that makes Beyoncé the most money is entertainer. Therefore, she has to be in our faces quite a lot. Whereas someone like Rihanna, who is being mentioned for this net worth / visibility correlation only, don't piss me off. She was actively in the public eye for several years, but once her background investments started to meet extreme success, and that money got so slimy and grimy and judgy that she was not only able to cross over into billionaire status unmarried, but also maintain active and fruitful connections with one of the largest and most powerful luxury conglomerates in the world. And if you want to check back in on the slimy, grimy, dirty part, I'm gonna just need you to look that one up yourself. All right, ain't no sniper about to catch me in the side of my neck. It's my first video back. So that Riri money is so nasty, it basically can't be touched. Nor is she willing to agitate its sources, as told by her screaming "Free Palestine" when it was, you know, this cool indie thing to do. And she wasn't nearly as rich. But now that we need her to say it again, she won't. And that comes conveniently after she's made ties with brands who are, let's say, questionably implicated in the stimulation of the Israeli economy. So her money, almost untouchable, and it accumulates with little to no interference from her as an entertainer. Now, obviously, Rihanna's likeness is a huge part of her brand's marketability, but she don't have to release not another album. She does not have to go on not another tour to guarantee those types of returns. She probably still will, because y'all won't leave the lady alone. But the point is, she doesn't have to. Beyonce is yet to luck out in that way. I mean, she's lucky in the fact that, yeah, even after all these years, she still has a creative mind, a healthy voice, and an able body. But on the other hand, that's kind of all we respond to. Beyonce has dabbled in physical product in the past. I mean, even before Ivy Park, those of you who remember, she has had fashion lines, she had fragrances, but those never really hit, sustainably at least. And I think that's because no matter how good Beyonce's physical products have been, nothing compares to her product of entertainment. Because that's what people really want from her. They want her voice, they want her body. And I talked about this in my Natural Beauty Hysteria video. Everything that is and can be produced from Beyonce's physical form, there has been a historical demand for it. And she's had to respond to it, or else how else she gonna make all that damn money? So that's why when we say eat the rich, Beyonce will always be the main course. Not because she's the only one climbing her way to the top, but because we see her on the ladder. And we have seen her for nearly 3 decades. You know, we are rich in evidence, rich in fascinating evidence at that, for a case study of her strategy. And it seems like this next phase is apolitical, which is weird, but also not, which is weird. One week before the release of Act 2, Cowboy Carter, Beyoncé took to Instagram to thank her fans for their support. She proceeded to explain that this album was born out of an experience where she felt, and it was made very clear, that she was not welcome. The experience that she's referring to is speculated to be her appearance at the 2016 Country Music Awards, where she performed the remix to her song Daddy Lessons with the then Dixie Chicks. Assuming that's the experience she's talking about, let us be very clear that the reason Beyoncé was not received at the CMAs the way we're used to seeing her received is firstly because she's Black and country music is a notoriously racist genre. This is a point that we cannot ignore. I do understand the role that Black people have played in the origin of country music's sound. I don't dismiss that. I am an advocate for acknowledging that history, and I'll say that I'm pleased to see the progressive turn that country music is trying to take. But make no mistake, country music was created as a genre, so not just as a sound, but as a marketable, profitable institution, specifically to appeal to a white American conservative audience. And it has honored that legacy since its inception in the 1920s all the way to now. So let them tell it, Beyoncé is a Black person. And that was enough for her to be met with resistance when getting up on that stage. Additionally, this performance was at the height of Lemonade, which, as we'll expand on later, resulted in Beyoncé being perceived as very radical in politics. Her choice to perform with the then Dixie Chicks specifically doubled down on that radicalism. For context, during a London concert in 2003, Dixie Chicks lead singer Natalie Maines said, quote,
"Do not want to be sworn we're ashamed of the President of the United States."
This was in reference to then President George W. Bush and what was his upcoming invasion of Iraq. For the people who don't keep up with the country sector of pop culture, they don't get how nutty this was. The Dixie Chicks went from being one of the most successful country music groups of all time. 7 Grammys, 4 American Music Awards, 7 Billboard Music Awards, 10 Country Music Awards, and this is all by O3, okay? This ain't even in total. They went from that to blacklisted. Couldn't even get their songs played on the radio, and you know back then radio was king. Couldn't get their songs played because fans would call in and harass the host. Protesters were so passionate. In Louisiana, they gathered to take a 33,000-pound tractor to run over Dixie Chicks albums. Boy, I tell you, when white people get mad. The Dixie Chicks faced this backlash not because they committed crimes, not because they told lies, silly, unlike some musicians who still have thriving careers to this day, but because they spoke out against one of the bloodiest conflicts that the media had covered in its day. And very similar to what we're witnessing today, there was all this propaganda from antagonistic world powers trying to normalize these atrocities. So it was high time for people with massive platforms, like musicians, to really choose humanity. And while some people spoke out in their way, like Madonna and the Beastie Boys, when you're in pop or hip hop, it's different. Like, there's a lot more grace allowed for speaking out, which is why Kanye West can interrupt a telethon with millions of watchers to say,
George Bush doesn't care about Black people.
And then go on to become one of the richest Black men in America. But the Dixie Chicks can say, we don't support the US's invasion of the Middle East, and they damn near lose their careers for it. So why were the Chicks punished so severely? Because nationalism is a historic cornerstone of country music. Not patriotism, okay? Not just being proud to be an American, but nationalism, supporting the interests of your home nation, even if, and especially when, it comes at the detriment of other nations. This was the drama that Beyoncé got herself involved in, voluntarily at that. So it's not an impractical assumption to make that Beyoncé choosing to perform with the then Dixie Chicks, choosing to bring them back off of the blacklist onto the CMA stage in the height of Lemonade, It's not an impractical assumption to make that that was her standing in solidarity with anti-war sentiments, among other things. Now, I know some of you see where this is going, but don't spoil it for the others. Now, Beyonce, having had this experience of rejection in all of its layers, in front of all of us, and only God knows what was going on behind the scenes, having been told in more ways than one that her heritage as a Southern woman and her race as a Black woman could not musically coexist, she still chose to say, okay, I'm gonna give country music a real go. I am going to give it a permanent spot in my musical legacy, which means country music is gonna stand alongside anti-war stances. It's gonna stand alongside Black Panther costuming, alongside references to African spirituality, alongside the proclamation that Black is king. So when she announced this album, and she led with the hope that, quote, years from now, the mention of an artist's race as it relates to releasing genres of music will be irrelevant. I wonder who she talking to? Whose expectations was she trying to manage? Like, Beyonce, who are you trying to let down easy? Because I know you're not talking to me.
Don't try me in my house. I invited her into my home. I gave her a beverage.
And when that quote was accompanied with an album cover, where she's waving an American flag and sitting atop a white horse, my name God, suddenly she was talking to me. And this white hair, Jesus. Ooh, I have issue with the white hair. I do, and we must dissect how it looks. We must assign meaning to its presentation because that is the status quo of Beyonce's artistry. Lemonade would not be what it is without braids and Daughters of the Dust imagery. Renaissance would not be what it is without disco balls and the color silver, so spare me. We're gonna talk about this white hair. When Beyonce first debuted that platinum white hair, people went into a frenzy, even accused her of skin bleaching because this hair color does not bring out the warm tones of her skin. I don't think Beyonce bleached her skin. And honestly, I thought we left that rumor back in 2005. I do not think she bleached her skin. I just think we genuinely forgot just how light-skinned Beyonce actually is. We allowed color theory and her previous use of warm, golden, bronzy tones in her wardrobe, coupled with her politically charged performances, to literally deepen our perception of her complexion, making us forget that she is the high priestess of colorism and featureism. And texturism, because every time she snatched that wig off, y'all start losing your shit all over again. And it's funny how I wrote this line before she posted that sacred promo where she's washing her natural hair, and that's exactly what y'all did. Now, for those reasons, there have always been questions around Beyonce's race, but she has always made it clear that she doesn't want to be known as anything other than Black. So for her to switch up the tempo like this drastic change in aesthetic, and this proclaimed hope for a raceless future, amidst her refusal to condemn this white supremacist imperialism that we see running amok right now, coincidentally right before she entered this white conservative space, that's enough for me to wonder, was this just a faux pas, or is this a stance? Given this, what should have been an extremely full circle moment from her performance with the Chicks to present day, I can't help but wonder, is this merely an attempt at diversifying her artistry? Is it that innocent, or was this choice made at this time in this political climate meant to decelerate her perception as a musical activist and essentially abandon the ideals that she once proclaimed to defend? And why are we as consumers congratulating her as if she's doing the opposite? Ismatu Gwendolyn once wrote, "Within the paradox of being trapped in wealth, but also not wanting to slim it down here anyways, she still manages to make rich, decadent art so damn good it feels like love. The works and life of Beyoncé are so intense that her skill and effort alone feel loving." Now that is a bar I cannot deny. Personally, each time I experience Beyoncé, I can tell that this is a performer who is living out their wildest dreams. Especially as a performing arts kid myself, I see that little girl in her who has always wanted to be a star. Like, I recognize that glimmer in the eye. And what's so heartwarming is I see Beyonce honoring her with every note sung, with every dance hit. Like, you can tell she does not play about what she does. And that's the thing about the love that Beyonce puts into her work. It is so masterful and so precise, yet ambiguous enough that you can alchemize it into whatever you want. For me, it's my inner child, my inner theater kid who's stuck in the auditorium, you know what I mean? But for you, for anyone, it could be anything. Joy, independence, femininity, confidence, controversy. You want it, you got it. So if you find yourself being receptive to the criticism in this video, but you still find yourself having very positive reactions to the music, it's by design. Let's just say that. It's fully by design. But you have to be willing to divert your eyes from that and be able to recognize and hold accountable all the other shit. Because there's a lot of other shit. The cultural norm of Beyonce's fan base is to misconstrue the love she puts into her work and then delivers to us as love for us. But she don't love us. Now, yes, this is the formula for any typical parasocial relationship. This isn't necessarily specific to Beyonce, but in Beyonce's case, I feel that this misunderstanding between artist and fan is allowed to survive, if not encouraged, by the more powerful and influential party, which is Beyonce. In recent years, she's accomplished this through studying her consumers' vulnerabilities, pandering to them through trending political themes, which will garner virality, but then packaging them through models of scarcity, which will ensure longevity. The first successful execution of this strategy that I can recall was with her self-titled album in 2013. Beyonce has always been on her my man, but with a hint of girl power tip. You know, while she has had a few songs that advocate for women's independence and their work ethic, don't get it twisted. For every girl power anthem, she has made it abundantly clear that about her man, that's a different type of devotion. She gonna upgrade him. She gonna cater to him. She gonna be dangerously in love with him. Shall I go on? Because you know I can. But self-titled, for all intents and purposes, was Beyonce's unequivocal Girls Girl album. I think even the album cover, which is the only one without her physical body on it, made it clear that this wasn't an album to be gazed upon per se, it was truly to be experienced. This album toyed with topics like self-image, doubt, the delicate balance between sexual domination and submission, self-assuredness, postpartum struggles, the gratification of motherhood, the list goes on. And when Beyonce honored these complexities of womanhood by publicly identifying as a feminist, it was a big move, yes, because even in that time, female celebrities wasn't just claiming the F word outright like that. But it's not like there wasn't any space at all for that kind of stance as it arrived in the boom of fourth wave feminism. And this wave of the movement centered issues about women's bodies and their autonomy, be it reproductively, sexually, missions against harassment. Me Too was on the rise at that time. So with this album, virality was garnered because it sounds good, yes, and it's Beyonce, oh my god, yes, right? But a key push in how viral it went was how seamlessly it fit into popular political discourse. But because this album was so viral, something had to be done to sustain its relevance beyond just a couple weeks worth of chatter. And this is where we usher in the model of scarcity. Self-titled introduced a sort of bargain between Beyonce and her fans. She said, okay, look, I'm gonna get far more personal in the music. I'm gonna tell you about my insecurities. I'm gonna hint at troubles in my marriage. I'm even gonna be more explicit about my discussions of sex, because you know I've been a little touch and go with it in the past. But in return, you won't see or hear from me nowhere else, unless I conduct it. No interviews unless I conduct it. How does that sound? This combination of strategy and surprise is why this album strikes me as the first of Beyonce's works that was so much bigger than good sounding music and good looking videos. I mean, that's already what we've come to expect of Beyonce, right? So to see that was no surprise, but a project that could shift the collective understanding of her work from superficial, my man, booty pop, hair flip, to that, yes, still that, always that, but also sounds that are mature, lyrics that are complex, visuals that are cinematic. Yeah, That was new, and we didn't see it coming, and we didn't know when it was gonna happen again. Wow. It's no shock why this surprise album, followed by selective vulnerability, deepened by controversial themes formula, was the foundation for her most legendary work to date.
I know, but when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade.
3 years later, and we get Lemonade. Beyonce shares her confrontation with intersectionality. I want to highlight that Lemonade was really the first body of work that Beyonce left busted wide open for interpretation. If we were to analyze Lemonade simply based off of the music, it is a personal account of hardship which bridged the gap to her understanding or her conceptualization of intersectionality. Through Lemonade, Beyonce shared how honoring her identity as a Black American working mother influenced her journey to understanding her hurt behind and then eventually forgiving her husband's infidelity. Whoa! Because I'm still a little bit bitter about it. If we could have had it my way, Lemonade would have not ended like that. It would have ended as Jerry. I'm writing this letter to let you know I'm really leaving and no, I'm not keeping yo shit. That should have been the final poem, okay? You better call Tyrone, but you can't use my phone. I guess Beyonce vibrates a little higher than that, because she said if we're gonna forgive, let it be joyous. So Lemonade, the collection of songs, is a close-ended story. And in my opinion, that's how it should have stayed. This video would not exist if that's how it would have stayed. But Beyonce chose to heighten Lemonade's impact by incorporating Black radicalist imagery. And this choice made up for, at bare minimum, 70% of the album's legacy. Because it shifted this album from an individualistic art piece to, as Joan Morgan refers to it, a diasporic one. Given this album was released while the Black Lives Matter movement was gaining more and more momentum with each police-slain body, to name a few, Rakia Boyd in 2012, Alicia Thomas in 2012, Tamir Rice in 2014, Michael Brown in 2014, Eric Garner in 2014, Freddie Gray in 2015, Alton Sterling in 2016, Philando Castile the very next day, also in 2016. It would take a lot to convince me that the political marketing of Lemonade wasn't meant to get a boost from that. Remember, Lemonade, the visual album, is a story about Beyonce. Therefore, it's automatically a story about Black womanhood. Like, she didn't have to reach for that. But what she did have to reach for was that performance of freedom at the BET Awards. What she did have to reach for was that Black Panther costuming at the Super Bowl. What she did have to reach for was being the one to present Colin Kaepernick with the Muhammad Ali Legacy Award, an award that he was giving after losing his job for protesting the same flag that she waving in this latest album cover. None of these things have anything to do with Beyonce getting cheated on. I fear. The story of Beyonce experiencing infidelity and her journey to forgiving that survives beautifully on its own without help from any of that other stuff. So you see how we didn't necessarily lose the plot, we just created and profited from a brand new one? And considering this new plot had systemic diasporic issues at the heart of it, now it's not just Beyonce's story. It's all of ours. It's all of ours. It's very much an invitation for everyone to chime in because we all have our own experience with it. So that's what we did. Critics, musical historians, and academics alike all assembled to make sense of this imagery, which was bold in audacity, rich in historical reference, yet vague in description from the actual creator. People wrote books. People created college courses, do you hear me? The Lemonade era was turned into a challenge of academia. Who can extract the most meaning? Who can assign the most virtue? Lemonade's depth was enriched so much by consumers, but celebrated almost entirely as the mind of Beyonce. And I'm not saying that Beyonce had no role in Lemonade's symbolic charge or Lemonade's impact. Absolutely not. It's like literally her album. Why would I say that? Yes, a lot of us were in our analytical bag when Lemonade came out, but those seeds were planted in very fertile soil. Okay, she gave us a lot to work with. However, we cannot dismiss the way the widespread intellectual response to Lemonade redirected Beyonce's career. If Self-Titled was the appetizer to Beyonce's musical depth, Lemonade was the whole friggin' restaurant. with 500 plus chains worldwide. Because it did just make us more fond of her as a musician. It put authority in her stances. It put trust in her ideals. And it made it so that every body of work that came out of the Beyoncé lab thereafter was assumed to be racially symbolic in some sort of way. But not like not in the simple way, in the puzzling, mysterious, really gotta put your thinking cap on kind of way. So given Lemonade's racial imagery, especially in the political climate that it was released, in order for this album to be more than a commercial plot, there was a moral responsibility attached to it that Beyoncé did not meet. And even saying that, it kind of feels like it teeters on self-righteousness, but I gotta be strong, okay? Because self-righteous, hater, flip-flop, flippy flip-flopping ass bitch, listen, these are all things that I'm willing to be called behind this video. Because I know I'm not chatting shit. I know I'm not. Black artists throughout history who have incorporated activism into their music, they have always had a lot to risk, both personally and professionally. But it was important to make that kind of music, not just to communicate that they were merely aware of systemic issues, but to be clear about which audiences they were trying to reach and why. To the point where performances were accompanied with these "I said what I said and I'm not changing on it" ass speeches, like Nina Simone. She performed Mississippi Goddamn for one of the very first times in front of a nearly all-white audience at Carnegie Hall. And then at the Selma to Montgomery Civil Rights March, purposefully, so that her message was firm and consistent no matter where she was or who she was around. And as a result, her career never fully recovered from that. Eartha Kitt got invited to the White House. You know, that place that houses the most powerful leader in the world. If you're unfamiliar, ask Beyonce, she's been there plenty. Eartha Kitt was up in that White House. She looked the first lady of the United States in the face to basically tell her, hey look, these efforts to beautify America by picking up trash and putting flower pots in the ghetto might actually be the stupidest shit I have ever heard. Especially when we got children turning to drugs and crime because their government doesn't give them shit else to believe in aside from being shipped off to go fight in Vietnam. Okay, notice how the W word keeps recurring in the musical activism discussion. Clock it. Clock it. Now, of course, I'm embellishing, right? Eartha Kitt didn't say that verbatim, but honestly, while we playing, I probably said it a lot nicer than she did. But the point is, she had the opportunity to speak on some real shit. And she had the opportunity to do so with the people in power. And she took that opportunity. And as a result, her career also never fully recovered. There doesn't necessarily need to be a lost ritual in order for musical activism to be actualized, is what I have written here. But I don't know if I agree with that. Still. Lost ritual sounds ominous, but when you think of the type of change that we've seen in the world, that shit was never just handed to us. Like, it always came with some sort of resistance, hence it being called a struggle, hence our actions being called disruptions. So I guess I take that back. I guess there needs to be some sort of loss. There needs to be some sort of sacrifice in all of this. Or else you're just benefiting, no? Like with Cowboy Carter, for example, I totally get that Beyonce came back to country music and got her lick back. She gave racism her black ass to kiss and said, listen, with or without endorsement from a conservative audience, I am going to make this album. It is going to be successful, and I'm going to show you that I'm an asset to this space. Love that for her. But beyond that, there's morality in this that, again, she voluntarily attached herself to, yet completely abandoned. I hope we all recognize that the conflict that the Dixie Chicks spoke out against was a key historical event that cemented Islamophobia and xenophobia in American race relations. Honestly, in Western race relations as a whole. So how you understand brown bodies and their right to life and safety as human beings is undoubtedly influenced by what took place between the US and the Middle East. And that collective bias, which was rooted way back when, has legitimized the current attacks on Muslim populations that we're all seeing right now. So the opportunity and responsibility shines brightly in Beyonce's face to really round out this moment by holding herself to the fire for a cause instead of just assuming the role of savior to help uplift those who have already faced the consequences. If the ultimate outcome of activism is an uptick in album sales, an uptick in tour tickets being sold, more praise generated for the artist, but it's still unclear about what the actual purpose of the work is or what change it's meant to encourage, then who is it really for? You see, I wouldn't have to question this if we saw Beyonce's dedication to these topics beyond their commercial value, if we really saw her making the effort to connect herself back to the reality of these issues. I think Beyonce was either not well versed enough in these topics to actually expand on them, which is no shade and no problem, or it was just simply more important for her to maintain that phantom mystified persona than to put forth the effort to decrease the distance between her and her work, or her work and us, or her and us. In hindsight, it seems like the only true outcome of Lemonade was even more individualism. And here is where we got to take some accountability as consumers, because in the intellectual frenzy that accompanied Lemonade, we could have concentrated our efforts in the collective to see what could have come of that. Could we have mobilized? Could we have made it an even bigger movement? Instead of habitually congratulating Beyonce as an individual for it. But that's just a clear case of us sticking to what we know and what the media supports. On quite literally the first paragraph of the first chapter of Freedom is a Constant Struggle, Angela Davis highlights the dangers of individualism. Even as Nelson Mandela always insisted that his accomplishments were collective, always also achieved by the men and women who were his comrades, the media attempted to sanctify him as a heroic individual. A similar process has attempted to disassociate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. from the vast numbers of women and men who constituted the very heart of the mid-20th century U.S. freedom movement. It is essential to resist the depiction of history as the work of heroic individuals in order for people today to recognize their potential agency as part of an ever-expanding community of struggle. This is really something that I'm trying to resist in my own politic, especially as an online personality with a large amount of people who really place value in my thoughts. I know hearing someone say the good things with the fancy words is great. It's a nice feeling, and I really did hit the introvert jackpot by being able to say what's really on my chest and reach so many people without having to leave the damn house. But one thing I'm coming to realize is ideology without practice and without community engagement can only go so far, which is why I have to make active efforts to be more community centered. I have to place priorities in things like mutual aid and groundwork and service, basically just making sure that I can act within the communities that I speak so passionately about. Our habit of centering individualism, it met Beyonce right where she was, and honestly right where she's always been, which is as separated from her audience as she can possibly be. You know, people often argue that due to her wealth and class, this is actually, making music is just about the most outreach that she actually can do. Okay, yeah, keep it on the playground then, just like we did with Renaissance. I will certainly give Beyonce her flowers for how she handled the Renaissance era. Renaissance was truly a matter of, you know, fuck it, let's just dance. Let us just dance, and let's dance outside of the confines of heteronormativity. Oh, it was a ball. And in doing so, it definitely brought a marginalized audience at the center of that celebration. So I guess that was kind of activism by proxy, but that's about as political as it got. Now imagine if we were to turn around and be like, because of the Renaissance album, Beyonce is now a figurehead for trans liberation. That would be such a ridiculous reach, because as queer people, we recognize that Beyonce, as queen mother as she is, that is a ruler straight, square ass heterosexual right there. Wife, mother, lover right there. She is not qualified to be any sort of leader in the queer community. So we kept it on the playground. But when it comes to race, it seems like we just can't do that. Like we just won't do that. No matter if it makes sense or not, if Beyonce's name is attached to it, it must be deep. specifically in the racial direction. It gotta be more than meets the eye. And that's exactly why Cowboy Carter is happening how it's happening. I'll say it again, Cowboy Carter deserves its success. The album sounds great. I have no notes for the people celebrating it for that. It's just, that's not what people are doing. They're not just saying this album is good, let's dance and go on about our days. They're saying, wow, look at Beyoncé breaking down the walls of this racist institution. Look at Beyoncé with one album, revolutionizing these prejudice rules, when in reality, she's just the exception to them because of her privilege as what? An individual. Hardly any of these songs speak to the collective, but they're being praised as if they do. Doreen St. Félix highlights this in her review of the album. Even in the song Blackbird, for example, which is one of the main tracks being given this revolutionary praise. It's a song originally by the Beatles. Beyonce's rendition features Tanner Adele, Brittany Spencer, Tiara Kennedy, and Raina Roberts, who are 4 Black women country singers. The lyrics discuss a black bird, a black woman, as Paul McCartney describes, being prompted to finally spread her wings and soar. And Beyonce very much takes on a matriarchal role in this, kind of like she's the mommy bird pushing them out of the nest, which to me did feel a bit self-congratulatory, because I feel like if you're going to be so forthcoming about the power of your platform, communicating that even in a racist space, it can defy that and still give others a boost, maybe give those others a boost by actually showcasing their talent. Squeezing an additional 4 artists into a 2-minute song, and to my knowledge, they were last-minute additions at that, it falls perfectly in line with this Beyoncé is a pioneer for the elevation of Black music. It falls perfectly in line with that narrative. But realistically, aside from the short-lived boost that these women will get from being on a Beyoncé album, this does little to nothing to change or even address the prejudice infrastructure that made them blackbirds to begin with. And it isn't exactly Beyonce's job to single-handedly change this infrastructure. I mean, she couldn't do it by herself even if she wanted to. So I don't place that duty on her, but it is her responsibility, especially with all that's at stake, to step in and quell the praise that's being aimed at her for doing that, if she knows that that's not actually what's happening. Mind you, this is all because of the tone Lemonade set, okay? And not just Lemonade, but our obsession with intellectualizing her intentions without any confirmation or denial from her. That's exactly why she could go from all that For the People cosplay during the Lemonade era to promoting oppressive, pseudo-liberal ideals and still manage to convince us that she was doing us a favor. Let's go back in time about 2-ish years after Lemonade, 6 years ago total at this point, to revisit Everything is Love. Now, we have always known Beyoncé the entertainer. Through Self-Titled, we got to know a little bit more about Beyoncé the woman and wife. Through Lemonade, we created Beyoncé the radical revolutionary. And in 2018, with the release of Everything is Love, we turned the page to discover the irrevocable identity of Beyoncé, the entertaining radical revolutionary wife of a billionaire. Everything is Love, which was the collaborative finale following Beyoncé's Lemonade and Jay-Z's 444, seemed to mark the end of a revelational trilogy. After sharing with us their accounts of turbulence in their marriage, this album signified the conclusion that at the end of the day, they gotta end. Fuck what you thought, fuck what you heard. She gonna stick by him, he gonna stick by her, and together they will emulate not just Black love, but Black opulent love. As the album cover and hit single Ape Shit would suggest, a major theme of this album was Black people having the audacity and the money and the power and the connections to do Black ass shit in white ass spaces. In the literal sense, they were taking up physical spaces meant to preserve some of the most respected pieces of white human history. Child, I was at the Louvre, in France, dancing, cussing, and carrying on as they celebrated their success despite not being properly recognized by institutions like the Grammys and the NFL. The irony in this is something that I originally did not catch. So by this point, just about everyone has bumped into a conversation or critique of Beyoncé and Jay-Z and them being super hyper-capitalist, super duper, that's obsessed with money. And that's bad on its own. But what makes it even worse is this couple's deep, deep belief in the meritocracy, especially as a fundamental of their love. The belief that if Jay-Z can make it, anyone can make it. If Beyonce can, and you know what, honestly, I hate to say propaganda, but this is the propaganda that follows each and every one of her documentaries too. Like, they all follow the same theme, that all you have to do to succeed is work hard, believe in yourself, what else? Trust in God and put family first, and then everything else will just fall into place. Okay. All right, no, because that's the last time. That's the last time. Do you see how many nails I'm missing by the end of this video? Do y'all see? Hold on. Let's see if you can see. Look how many nails I'm fucking missing. All right, now let me put these up. We wrapping this up anyway. Like, let's go. Ooh, it feels so good to be free, back in my natural habitat. Y'all know I don't even really do the nails like that, but I feel like it just fit the look. And if there's one thing I'm committed to, baby, be serious. Okay, so yeah, the Carters, they defend their allegiance to wealth through the belief in the meritocracy, essentially saying that they worked hard so they deserve it. But, and this is where they add their little remix, their little twist on it, especially because they're Black. That's why we should adore their wealth the same way that they do, because in some roundabout way, they're helping us too. Or something like that. The Everything is Love era was just rich people showing they rich asses. But instead of just flaunting their wealth in the way that any other rapper or singer does, it was always, look at the emancipatory thrill that being Black and wealthy grants you. Don't you want this for yourself? You're never gonna get it. But watching me have it is good enough, right? That's still power to the people enough, right? It's not funny, but it's funny. Because this is the prophecy that Jay-Z has been trying to fulfill for decades at this point. We only recently know Beyonce being in her, I'm a hyper-capitalist, but I'm Black, so the harm cancels out bag. But a Mr. Sean Corey Carter has been trying to spread this gospel for quite some time. In fact, I recently came to learn about a critique that journalist Elizabeth Mendez-Berry made about Jay-Z back in 2003.
For those who don't know, Elizabeth planted the seed for the Che Guevara with Bling On, I'm Complex bar.
And I still haven't received any royalties. Yeah. I was at a party for Robin Thicke at the time, and Jay-Z comes walking by, and he's wearing a Che Guevara t-shirt, and he's wearing this massive Jesus piece. And the Jesus piece is smacking Che Guevara upside the head with every step that Jay-Z takes. And I was just standing there. I felt like my head was spinning. The collision between capitalism and, the commodification of revolutionary culture. And so I wrote about that, and then I gave him a copy of the review, and he called me that night and he was like, you write like I rap. Subsequently, he invited me to come back to the studio, and he said he had a new song, and in his book Decoded, he talks about that incident. He has a slightly different version of the story than I do, but the true one is the one I just shared. My argument was that revolutionary chic may be rewarding financially, but it's actually socially really problematic. I don't think he agrees with me. I was like, capitalism really doesn't work. And he's like, well, it worked for me, so it could work for anybody type of thing, which I
Right, yeah, he's big on a win for me is a win for all of us.
Exactly, which I completely disagree with.
As Jay-Z wrote in his book, that interaction, on top of him reading some more of Mendez-Berry's work, prompted him to change the second verse of his song, Public Service Announcement. In that verse, he referred to his choice of combining Marxist revolutionary imagery with a wealth-boasting piece of jewelry as complex. In regards to the similarities Jay-Z identified between himself and Che Guevara, he writes, "I know that the spirit of struggle and insurgency was woven into the lives of the people I grew up with in Bed-Stuy, even if in sometimes fucked up and corrupted ways. Che's failures were bloody and his contradictions frustrating, but to have contradictions, especially when you're fighting for your life, is human, and to wear the Che shirt and platinum and diamonds together is honest. In the end, I wore it because I meant it." What a convenient connection to invent. And what an undeniable truth to avoid. Yes, both Guevara and Jay-Z are familiar with being preyed upon by cycles of poverty and survival. However, Guevara was fighting to eliminate those structures, while Jay-Z, once he was lucky enough to escape the victimhood of the structure, he formed an allegiance to it. So he changed his verse almost as if to address the criticism in the moment, like at face value, but then he went on to apply that contradiction-riddled ideology to the rest of his career. And successfully, we fell for it. We fell for it, and that's why we look at him the way that we do. Jay-Z is not known as a regular rapper, okay? He's the type of rapper who goes from selling on the corner to owning a luxury cannabis brand. He's the type of rapper who Obama listens to in the Oval Office. He's the rapper's rapper. He's the GOAT's GOAT. When he walks into the room, these other rappers better sit the fuck up straight, because this is Jay-Z that we're talking about. All because he lying. This nigga lying, Your Honor. Obviously, in this section, I'm going a little bit harder, right? Because when it comes to, I don't like Jay-Z. Yeah. Ooh. Ooh. Not the air getting lighter. Wow. No, I love it. I don't like Jay-Z. And I know that that statement is damning, but so is this whole video. So fuck it. I don't like him. And when I think about how Beyonce implements these recipes, it actually makes me sad. I think Lemonade ended beautifully. You know, she recognized her resilience as a Black woman, and she seized the opportunity to start anew with her partner. That might not be everyone's cup of tea, but it's her truth, and I think it was beautiful. So for her to give us those gut-wrenching poems of Lemonade, and I think Joan Morgan says, like, she cut to the white meat. Warson Shire did exactly what needed to be done with those poems. I felt every minute of Lemonade. So for her to take such a heartfelt approach just for the Carters as a unit to turn around and not be able to say a single thing about their love without reminding us how much money they have, it is sad. Because I'm talking every song on this album makes a reference to the vacations they take, the home they live in, the jewelry they got on, the tours they sell out. You know, they can't talk about a thing without mentioning that too. They have songs that talk about love, not just romantic love. I like the song Friends, where they talk about having love for your friends and your friends supporting you through life. Love of self, like it explores so many different forms of love. But while that part of it may be ambiguous, the exploration of love itself may be ambiguous, the one consistent theme is the wealth boasting, is the capitalism. And that don't make no damn sense. Just like on Black Effect, I remember Beyonce says, I pull up like a freedom rider, hop out on rodeo, or something like that. Girl, what resemblance do you have to a freedom rider when you're going shopping on Beverly Hills? That's what I'm saying. The Blackness is not the radicalism. Or when Beyonce says, I will never let you shoot the nose off my pharaoh. These are deep ass lyrics meant to evoke visceral reactions within Black folk. And we as listeners, we have the right to question what we're meant to do with that. What we're meant to do with Jay-Z talking about how he has, because this is supposed to be Black empowerment, right? So what are we supposed to do with the fact that he is bragging about how he has a richer milli in every color when the average Black person can't even afford one with their annual salary? This is not just participating in capitalism, because if Fab Socialism taught us anything, miss you girl, we have to participate in capitalism in order to survive in a capitalist society. So that's not what they're doing. They're not just participating in it. They are enabling it. This is enablement of capitalism. This is promoting it as freedom. And instead of actually fostering spaces for Black people to follow that same meritocratic formula that the Carters swear is fail-proof, all they try to do is fit into white institutions. One thing about them Carters, they are not shy about expressing their disappointment when they've been shut out. We saw Beyoncé cry at the Grammys when she didn't win Album of the Year. You know, we heard Jay-Z say, fuck that 0-for-8 shit when the Grammys nominated him 8 times in 2018 and didn't send him home with any. We heard him say, I said no to the Super Bowl. You need me, I don't need you. You know, which we thought, which we thought at the time was him standing in solidarity with Colin Kaepernick. This is the shit I be talking about. You see, I think I did a good job this video because one of my goals for this video was to not be like, don't you see? I didn't want to like come off like that, but like, no, for real, don't you see? This is what I'm talking about. When it comes to Jay-Z and Colin Kaepernick, the man never stopped calling him name. Jay-Z, like nobody told Jay-Z to call out to Kaepernick publicly the way that he did, but he chose to because Kaepernick's story was really sad. I mean, like, come on, the man lost his career, a career that he spent his whole life trying to get, all because he refused to salute a flag that was stained red with the blood of his people. And the NFL really made an example out of him. They used him as a cautionary tale to show what happens when you dare defy the big boss. Jay-Z's outreach to Kaepernick could not be interpreted as anything else than him standing in solidarity with the way the NFL had wronged Kaepernick. But the second them NFL contracts came correct and wrote Jay-Z in as a big boss, there the key was. Actually, there he is, him and his entire family sitting in the skybox of every single Super Bowl. And I'm sure if the day comes where Beyonce, I should say if and when the day comes where Beyonce wins Album of the Year, wouldn't it be so silly if it was for the Cowboy? Okay. If and when the day comes where she wins, she gonna walk up on that stage, she gonna have a little dainty tear trailing down her face, she's gonna, you know, for the full circleization of it all, and she's gonna gladly accept that award despite them playing in her face for years. So, okay, Carters, which one is it? Are y'all meant to be the radical Robin Hoods of these racist spaces, aiming to reclaim them for your people? Or are you just trying to be the best Blacks in white spaces? The conclusion that I draw is very simple. Beyonce and Jay-Z, but let's stay focused. Beyonce's ultimate goal is not success, it's not honor, it's not even wealth, it's power. And power is expensive. It's inherently greedy, it's remorseless and insatiable. There will never be enough. Beyonce is the most awarded Grammy winner in history. Like, no other person, living or dead, has as many Grammys as Beyonce. Her music always sells. Her tours are always packed out, even nearly 30 years into her career. Do you know how hard that is to achieve? We are approaching a time where, as far as accolades go, there is very little left for Beyonce to achieve, left for her to get. Yet she's still always talking about legacy and having something to prove. What else could that something be other than power? Acquisition. That's why she and her husband rented out the Louvre to record a music video. That's why she posed with that $30 million Tiffany diamond. That's why she and her husband purchased the most expensive home in California's history. Actually, let's spend some time on that because I don't want it to pass us, okay? Amidst an oncoming recession, Beyonce and her husband purchased the most expensive home in all of California's history, which means every other billionaire, every oil tycoon, every inventor, every just wealthy person who lives in the state of California paid less for their home than Beyonce and Jay-Z did. A move like that is not a marker of success, it's a signifier of power. When it comes to billionaires, we should not only want them to stop existing right now, but we should make it so that they can't exist ever again. Like, billionaires need to go extinct. It's really that deep, but we struggle to reckon with that depth because the PR just be too damn good. Celebrity billionaires, that's who really doing the work. It's really bad all on its own that there are people who are hoarding money on the same earth where other people don't know where their next meal is coming from. And the wealthy have the means to help them. Not just help them, but get rid of the problem completely. Yes, billionaires could completely eradicate involuntary starvation. They could eradicate homelessness, but they choose not to. That is bad enough on its own, but embarrassingly enough, a lot of everyday people are okay with that. They can make peace with that because they think that's where it ends. They think that the biggest billionaire sin is having a lot of money and spending it ostentatiously. No. The private jets, the private islands, baby, that's just how they play. But how they work, how they move, what they acquire, what they protect, their dominion. Let me put it to you this way. The economic crisis that we're in right now, aka the reason why eggs cost that much, why gas costs that much, the reason why there are skyscrapers scattered around New York City, blocking sunlight from lower income homes and sitting vacant while people freeze to death on the ground floor. That's billionaire business. They own those skyscrapers. They own those grocery store chains, those food conglomerates. They own those gas companies. And again, billionaires don't do this stuff because they're struggling to keep their lights on. They do it so that they can dictate if we keep our lights on. As a professional hater, I have learned that I could always be doing more. So let's turn it up a bit. This is such a great example, and it was this close to not making it in the video. Y'all remember when Jay-Z invested in the Barclays Center in Brooklyn? You know, campaigning as the poster boy for Brooklyn success. Oh, I came out of the Mossy projects and now I'm back to make the community better. You know how he be. All while that development obliterated local businesses and drove up the cost of housing, therefore drove out communities of color. Jay-Z fully had the ability to invest in Brooklyn in a way that would provide cleaner streets, wider sidewalks, wider bike lanes. You know, the beautification, or I should say the modernization of Brooklyn, could have still happened without displacing the community of color from which he emerged. But he chose not to take that route. Instead, he chose to colonize the place, knowingly. And he used his celebrity to sanitize the image of what he was actually doing to the community. Only to turn around and sell his stake in Barclays years later for a reported 1.5 million or more, which leaves the actual figure inexact, but it must be somewhere in that 1.5 mil ballpark, or else why would they use that as a comparative figure? So that's how much Jay-Z sold out Brooklyn for. Very likely close to $1.5 million. 1.5 million. This was not a move to better the community. And at 1.5 mil, this was not even a move to make money. This was a power move. This was a move to rub shoulders and make connections with the type of people who want to do that type of stuff all over the country. Power, acquisition, and again, if the wealthy person is famous enough, really good PR. Did y'all know Bill Gates has made efforts in Africa to patent a seed? A seed. Let me break that down. Bill Gates and his little lion-ass foundation is trying to force increased production of, so disrupt natural African ecosystems with fossil fuel-based fertilizers, and has purchased the commercial rights to a seed. So, African farmers who were born and bred on their African land and for generations have made a living off of cultivating their African land are being cornered to purchase the natural resources of their African land from a white American named William. And I'm not just mentioning that this is a white man named William for humorous effect, although it is pretty funny. Goofy ass name. No offense to my Williams out there. I'm sorry y'all gotta catch this straight. But listen, I'm really trying to drive home the distance between him and the physical reality of this project. I want to emphasize what has to go on up here and in here to possibly compel this man to take interest in Africa. Africa. So as we know, Bill Gates acquired his first massive sum of wealth through the invention of Microsoft, you know, the revolutionary computer software that we have all probably used at some point. That is his wheelhouse. That is what he's known for. That is what has helped open the door to any and every other business deal that came his way thereafter. Technology, and freaking computers. Now, how the hell that eventually landed him in the agricultural affairs of Africa? That should send off some alarm bells. Those two industries, tech and African agriculture, they have no natural connections. But even further, it's on the other side of the fucking world. Africa is a whole nother continent. He shouldn't even be looking in that direction. So what could possibly embolden him to sniff around any African country's economy or agriculture, if not the legacy of capitalism and colonialism? What could make him feel like he has the right to even seek out interests like that, if not the legacy of capitalism and colonialism? But guess how they're marketing it? The Lioness Foundation says its goal is to, quote, boost the yields and incomes of millions of small farmers in Africa so they can lift themselves and their families out of hunger and poverty. Boy, I oughta. It's almost as if this is an extremely wealthy person and all his peeps recognizing and pandering to the desperation of a population through a masquerade of progressivism, but in actuality is enabling systems that will exploit and oppress said population even further. Does this sound familiar? I really hope it sounds familiar. And these are just the famous ones. These are just the wealthy people who have to protect their public image. They have to appease us to some capacity for sake of their wealth. Now imagine the ones who don't have the media to answer to. Imagine the ones in the dark. Imagine what they're up to. These are the spaces that our beloved Beyoncé is aiming to be in. And it needs to be called out, fiercely and relentlessly so. We're at a time right now where awarding a celebrity with activist merit or really just virtue of any kind is worth so much. So I have to be very loud about shutting down the people who are hell-bent on exalting Beyoncé as virtuous when she conceals her positions and her connections to oppressive circles and refuses to take a public stance on any global atrocity. I am still okay with Beyoncé being exalted as the phenomenal entertainer that she is. And I know that there's connective tissue between that and her politic, but if there is a world in which we can say that Beyoncé is the baddest, the greatest entertainer to ever live, taught the truth where God love, the greatest entertainer to ever live, if there is a world where we can celebrate that without feeling the urge to then turn her into a leader of radical thought, take me there. But that's not the current world that we live in. We live in this one, so I have to act accordingly, okay? There is a high price on being considered a good celebrity right now, who is on the right side of history. But instead of actually just opening up a book and reading honest accounts of history that will tell you which side is right or not, they're trying to buy it. And not with money. These celebrities, they're trying to buy it with like these little empty signifiers of consciousness. Even these two rappers right now who got this rap beef, fucking stupid. It's all I'm hearing is you hate women more. No, you hate women more. No, you. Did you ever think the day would come where two male rappers would be arguing over who is the bigger misogynist? Did you ever think the day would come when rappers would shame each other for their poor treatment of women? Of course not. Of course we never thought this day would come, because that's not actually what's happening. They're just trying to signal virtue to make the other one look worse. With everything that's going on, the title of a good celebrity, of a conscious celebrity, is very, very valuable, and Beyoncé cannot afford it. She has insufficient funds. In fact, she is deep in debt, because what it costs is more than money. She owes us. She owes us for her readjustment of her politics when it's most convenient. She owes us for dressing up as an activist for racial struggles, only to turn around and encourage Black people to form an adoration for the structures that keep us in those struggles. She owes us for making a whole spectacle around Black is King, pretending to honor African culture and land, and then turn around and wearing a $30 million Tiffany diamond that was in fact stolen from African land. And then going on to become the face of Tiffany, further glamorizing the diamond mining industry that is devastating African populations as we speak, but can't out her mouth say free the Congo, Free Sudan. What's happening? And she especially owes us for trying to minimize the harm of everything she's done by saying she the first black woman to do this, she the first black woman to do that, and the first black woman, and the first woman, and the black woman, but then telling us that she hopes one day we don't even mention run it. Run it, Miss Carter. She owes us for that inconsistency, but instead of sending the invoice, we just write it off as a deeper, more complex layer of her radical vision, and I'm tired. If you're gonna be an insatiable hyper-capitalist, don't. Okay, that's my first thing. Don't. But if you're gonna do it anyway, do it with your whole chest, please, so that I can properly identify you as an op. And by op, I don't mean opposition, I mean oppressor. Show yourself and let me recognize that no matter how enjoyable your music may be, no matter how the visuals may move me, no matter how much you meant to me as a little girl, at the end of the day, you have interests in spaces that are committed to my oppression, committed to the oppression of people of color everywhere, okay? You have interests in spaces that cannot exist without eating us alive. Literally cannot exist without our dead bodies, be that through predatory healthcare systems, poverty, war. Like, in our privileged sector of the world, all that we have is the power of the collective. Now, it ain't where it needs to be. There still needs to be some structuring and organization on that front, but the power of the collective still exists, and it can be harnessed if we just get on our Zoom, which means leaving people who are running in the opposite direction behind, even if it's your favorite singer. So what's the final verdict? Well, Darkest Hue on Instagram said it best. We must be critical of celebrities, even the ones we like, the spaces they occupy, and how their likeness is used to legitimize oppressive organizations and brands. We must complicate our understandings of feminism. As consumers, we are so often seduced by the aesthetic of feminism that we fully avoid interrogating how mainstream feminist icons can be harmful. We must become better feminists ourselves by sitting with the discomfort that arises from the more selfish and problematic choices we make instead of running away from that discomfort. You don't have to convince yourself that your guilty pleasures or your career endeavors are empowering. We can only be honest with each other when we start being honest with ourselves. Obviously, Beyoncé is at the center of this particular video, but I really hope that what people can do is apply the framework of this critique to any and every celebrity and their choices and their stances, or lack thereof, and critically analyze how that negatively impacts a world that we claim to be so desperate to change. And another thing, one last thing, because I woke up this morning to the celebrity blockout where we are joining together and blocking celebrities who have been silent about world issues. Yes, I am participating, and yes, Beyoncé is on my list too. Like I said, this video is centered on Beyoncé, but it can be applied to any celebrity. But I do want to put emphasis on why I chose Beyoncé. So yes, I am well educated on the world of Beyoncé's public image. So she was the most informed choice for me. But beyond that, it's something about invoking the name of Beyoncé that really perks bitches up. And that's what I need. I need you perky. Woke ain't enough. Cause some of us claim that we woke, but we be slumped over. I need you sitting up straight. Oop, yay. Open your ears. Playtime is over. Calling Beyoncé the mother of the house of capitalism isn't funny anymore. Joking about the fact that she will give us everything under the sun but not class consciousness is not cute anymore, if it ever was. Especially as we learn more about why this stuff is so terrible. Y'all, this video could have got so dark so quick. But because I have to keep my lights on, because I too am a prisoner of the big C, I chose to omit some really awful things. As we further our education on these systems of oppression, which I challenge everyone watching to do, y'all will learn just how quickly things get dark and twisted and disgusting and corrupted and horrific, and how closely connected these things are to the people we hold high. There are a bajillion and one links to donate and send aid, and I will list some of those in the description. But please remember, part of what keeps us in this cycle is our habit of using money to distance ourselves from the heart of these issues. Do you not want to live in a world where we don't have to do that? A world where powers at large displace people, and then we send aid, and then the powers come back and displace them again, and then we send more aid? Like, do you not want to get out of this spin cycle? Okay, that's why it's so important to further our education, think critically, and act in the ways that we can. Thank you for allowing me this catharsis, especially if you made it all the way to the end. Special thanks to my lovely, amazing patrons. As always, y'all hit me up at patreon.com/tnoir for exclusive and extended videos, including an extended version of this one right here. There is an entire chapter of this video where I talked about Beyonce's outreach to other celebrities and how she fortifies her dominance in that space as well. Good. It's all on Patreon. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe because, like I said, I got a lot more coming and I don't want you to miss it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go cancel my title free trial and then I'm gonna go cry.